Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to our uh, COVID-19 panel hosted by JEUSA. I appreciate you all taking your time this afternoon to watch and discuss a little bit more with these great people that I'm about to introduce on this hot topic that it's been going on for a while, and I'm pretty sure you all heard a lot about it, but we're gonna discuss a little bit different today. First of all, I'd like to introduce all of our panelists. All of them were in some way related to junior enterprise, whether here in the United States or in Brazil. So first of all, I'll start with Bruna Correa. She's the founder of JUSA and Prime Consulting, and she's data and analyst consultant at Ernest and Young. Uh, we also have today Renan Passador. He's also a founder of JUSA and a partner at Monte Bravo in Brazil. Another great panelist we have is Vitor Valentim, founder of JUSA and Lumnus Consulting. He's currently working as a product manager at AB InBev. And why not? He's a self-proclaimed artist because we don't live just of work. We have also Greg. He's a connection in the partnership between JUSA and Agorize. He's a communications manager at Agorize North America. And last but not least, we have the vice president of business of the Brasil Junior, which they JUSA, but in Brazil. And he's also the he's in the area of partnerships and digital products. And I myself, I'm Bernardo. I'm the financial director at AXA Consulting, the first junior enterprise in Florida. So before we get started, we that's something we need to talk about. It's how we're gonna talk about COVID today. Instead of doing the same uh, thing about how is the impact on our lives and all of that, we want to focus today more on the junior entrepreneur. And since all of these great panelists have been involved in some way with the junior enterprise, we want to focus more today and how you can prepare your junior enterprise for this times of uncertainty that we still face for the future. We all know everyone's gonna deal with this in a different manner, and hopefully after the end of this panel, we can see you can have a better insight on how to deal with this in the future. So I'm gonna start with a more broad question, and I would like to start if Bruna could answer that, please, and then the other panelists can go on. But what were the biggest challenge your team faced when the COVID-19 crisis started, and how did you adapt or overcome those challenges?
Yeah, thanks Bernardo for the introduction and for getting this started. I think the biggest challenge for us as I worked like at my client was basically trying to go from a model where you're in person, and having those interactions in person, and one-to-one meetings, all of that, having a whiteboard to be able to draw out your problems and try to figure out solutions together, to go to completely Zoom meetings and not having that capability of being one to one. The way that we've managed to kind of overcome it is, we first started having like stand-ups every day, really short meetings, just to talk about what were your challenges, like how can you get that away, which we didn't have in person, which I actually think is a really great change because it does help out you to move more quickly. And another thing that we've done, we just started like being able to basically put together more well thought out problems than just just saying, hey, can you help me with this. We would have to like sit down, think about it, and send to be able to ask the question first. So that's kind of how we've gotten around it, and I think it's been a very great learning opportunity that can be, I'm talking through like my work experience right now, but every junior enterprise could incorporate that as well, internally and with clients.
Yes, absolutely, and that's a very interesting vision that you bring in the consulting. But uh, we all are facing different situations in different areas of work. Each junior enterprise focuses in some area. So And now I want to know from Yuri, how do you feel like in the Brazil Junior, which is a big junior enterprise that deals with a lot of clients and there's a lot of things. How did that apply to you?
Oh, nice. So I think when the crisis started, the one of the biggest thing that happened is that some classes just stopping and was suspended, and after that they canceled. And some families also start to ask for the students to come back home. So many junior enterprise, they faced like very many difficulties about um, do the work. So the labs were closed, or they were not supposed to work properly because they didn't have the staffs and stuff like that. So it was really difficult to continue working in the way that we were used to. So I think this was the biggest difficulty that we um, faced here in Brazil. And the biggest thing that we start to ask ourselves and try to help the junior enterprise was to think about how they could help the small business and the people that were suffering most with their expertise and their abilities that was able to access. So I think the first step was to start to know what could be executed during the crisis and what couldn't, and accept that because there wasn't nothing that we could do. So basically is was the biggest challenge in here, and start to reconfigure some products, some process, and start like Bruno said, doing calls and video conference and not being physically present. So I think it was trying to change the way that we perform and we do the products.
Yeah, I think this assessment of how the things are supposed to be in the future, I think that's a very important thing that we must be aware now. And I would like to hear from Victor and they are already working and how those this assessment of changes. Oh, now we can't do this anymore. We gotta move it to another way. How does this work in your your work environment, and how we could apply this in the junior enterprises?
Okay, I guess I can go first. I think one of the big changes that I felt personally in my work, and I think can really apply to the reality of junior enterprise, is we increased the amount of communication. Because when you're in the office, like you need something done, you just go to the guy's desk and ask for a favor, or like it's really easy to interact with people. That's not the case when you are working remotely. It's much more complicated. So we set up some ceremonies. I think Bruno already talked a little bit about it, but every day in the morning, first thing that we do, quick meeting with the group so we know what each person is doing and what you're gonna do for the day. Every week we have a moment to interact on a bit more personal level too. So communication, I think for me was really a key to success in this remote environment.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. Thanks, Bernardo, for the question. So for us in our line of business, being in financial advising, so we had two separate kinds of challenges. So first one would be for us how we would conduct business, which is done in person. How could we apply technology in order to do that remotely? And the other one, while the pandemic started to increase and the virus spread, we also saw all the financial markets going kind of crazy, going down. And how would we manage, and how could we be someone in which the clients could trust? So we started to do some studies inside the organization in order to understand why would our client hire us? So what was the job to be done? That job to be done had to be done in any situation, whether being it in person or remotely. So how we dealt with that in terms of clients would be to be close with them, staying closer than ever. So that's what we truly care about, being close and making sure that they understand that we are constantly looking at their portfolios and understanding the family context and how the family itself is being impacted with the virus. So I think that helped us a lot on adding value in times of trouble like these and going outside the scope of the job. And that helped us consolidating the relationship, building even more rapport, which is very important in any kind of personal relationship. So in terms of clients, that's how we dealt with. And in terms of prospects, how could we focus on increasing our market share while in times of trouble like these? So we added an extra effort on showing the benefits of the service itself and also highlighting the opportunity costs, because essentially if they're not making a choice, they are making a choice. So by not moving their portfolios, by not making any extra step, they are essentially staying, well, accepting the status quo. And by not changing, they are making some type of choice. And that actually is impacting the portfolio. So what we did was to add value as if they were already our clients.
Yeah, you all talked about communication, and I think that's one of the first things that come in mind. You all mentioned communication, and I know Greg. I've been communicating a lot with Greg because he saw this moment and Agorize as well as an opportunity to take this and communicate more with the junior enterprise and all of that. But I wanna follow up on this communication, and that's I wanna to get deeper on this personal touch you mentioned. How do you, and that's you can start here now, and then everyone can talk about and how they felt about, since everything is virtual, how the communication media strategies change. Were they faster, more efficiently, or they took longer and people were frustrated with not being able to see each other? And I think what the most important question is how the personal touch uh, of the team, of the groups can engage. How can they maintain this personal touch without the being facing each other live?
Yeah, so my team had to start touching base more often. Bruna mentioned the stand-up meetings every day. So I think communication had to be more often between amongst the team members in order to guarantee in all discussions that we all had the tools we needed to do the job. So it was up to each one of us to help the colleague or other people in the team in order to provide the other tools, provide other ideas in order to get the job done. And also we had to use different kind of technology that we were not used to using. So different kinds of apps, integrations, in order to shorten the distances, not only the physical one, but also the relationship one. So even though we are working remotely and cannot meet one another in person, it feels like we are more connected. So each one of us helping more than we would actually do if we were sitting right next to one another. So I think that was, well, a very good point, and also helped us a lot developing the leadership amongst other people that were not in a role in which they were expected to show leadership skills.
Yeah, did any of you? I'm sorry, Victor, you're gonna say. I just wanna do a provocation. Did any of you feel that on what Renan said, that you guys were able to feel closer than instead of apart? Just a provocation for you. You keep going.
Can I talk a little bit to this part? Sorry, Gregor, I can go first.
Okay. So actually, yeah, I can jump on that one. That's a great question, I feel, because of course, for example, with the team, every morning we used to have kind of an informal discussion. When we arrived at the office, just an informal discussion. You explain like what you did the day before and what you are going to do that day. And I think even when you work together in the office, on desks that are just next to each other, there is a lot of information that passes from one person to another through informal discussion. So sometimes you don't even know, but you just speak about something, and then someone's going to hear it and say, oh, that person also contacted me, maybe we should do something, and then a new project starts. So I think maybe this was one of the biggest challenges to overcome. How can you manage to still have that exchange of informal information, but virtually, digitally? So kind of like to adapt to that, and when Bruna said, it's kind of the same thing with Agorize. Now every morning we have like a 30-minute meeting where we do not specifically talk about what we're going to do today, or it's just an informal discussion, and we just want to recreate as much as we can that atmosphere we had in the office. Now what's very interesting also is that so Agorize, as we have offices around the world, so we used, of course, to have more ties within myself, with the Canadian office. But now, as we work virtually with the Canadian office and with my colleagues from North America, we also have now more than before calls with people from other offices, because as it's virtual, it's kind of the same if you discuss with your teammates, like with your colleagues from Canada or from the other offices. So I would say, in a way, it kind of reinforced our will and our ability to discuss with other offices. The fact that now we realize that discussing virtually is something that, okay, so we're getting very used to it. So why not also enjoy that opportunity to discuss with people from the other side of the world, and that maybe will bring elements that will be very important into your discussion. So in a way, I would say that the fact that we all confined at home and we had to adapt to that situation through our laptops and through like digitalization kind of created new opportunities of communication as well.
So can I make a little comment also? I think everyone already said how important this point specifically is, but let me reinforce that, because I remember back in Luna's days, and I think until today people still do that. Really, the secret sauce to our success was that all the members were really tightly connected, in an intimate level. Like everyone was friends with each other. We would have these moments like every quarter. We would rent a house and do like a weekend retreat. And those interactions that are like not necessarily related to work content, but happen in this work environment, they're so important to how well the team does and how comfortable you are sharing a feedback with the teammate. And I think maybe that's like the most critical point of having to work remote. So in my current job, as a manager, I have a team that works with me. It's really important that I establish this sort of relationship with them, to have more intimacy and being able to share honest conversations. What did I do? Because in the beginning, really, we were lacking that. We just kind of didn't feel comfortable with each other. We would do happy hours and it would be so awkward, like no one was down to share anything. So I schedule like every week 30 minutes individual with each person. And in those 30 minutes, we literally just chit chat, like talk about our lives, what you like to do outside of work, try to bond somehow and create a special connection. And that has like really changed things around. I think it made the team so much more united, and now we can have these moments where we are down, drink a beer after work and share some stories. And that has made a lot of difference in our performance. So I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, I think I agree 100% with you, and I can say this personally from my experience in Hex. We are a brand new junior enterprise, and some of the members I've never met them in person. We've been working 3-4 months together and I've never met them, and that's something we always talk about, is to try to keep the this energy, the spirit. Even though we never met face to face, how can we connect and make not only a good work relationship, but friendships also, because I know some of you are friends, and I think that's a struggle that not only Hexa is having, but all of the junior enterprises. And like how we keep this relationship, this good and healthy relationship, even though we haven't seen each other.
I think I can start with this one because when the crisis hit Brazil, we are in the middle of a selection of new members, and already had a team with 2 people, and I was recruiting another one, so I have the same like problem and difficulty that you had in your junior enterprise, and was very different for me to adapt the work that I already was going on with my team, and introduce a new person into our culture and the routine of the organization. So I had to like made a different type of onboarding that we used to have here in Brasil Junior, and not only have moments to like um, do some training and explain things and show culture and show some abilities that must have, but also some moments to like know people and make some fun meetings and stuff like that was already also scheduled into the onboarding process. So I think it's a good thing to plan. So not only some hard skills and soft skills, but also moments of integration and celebrations. And every Friday we have a meeting in the end of the day, is like a happy hour of the week. So we go to a conference, like a virtual conference, and start to drink together, watch some lives and stuff, already connect people that were here, but also introduce the new members. So I think it's a good way to do.
Mhm. Maybe I can build upon that. I think that's a very great point, Yuri. Actually, like there are kind of like two approaches to it. The fact that you know the people you already knew before like the confinement and everything, so you know them, right? So of course now you're gonna have to work together virtually, so at a distance. But as you already know them, it's more kind of an idea of maintaining the same relationship. How can you keep having those conversations with the informal information that's passing by? So I know many companies, for example, I don't know if you heard about that. It's called the water cooler challenge. So they kind of create a virtual break room, and you can join in at any time of the day. And it's as if you were at the office, and you can just go like drink a cup of water at the water cooler, and you find a colleague and you can just have an informal chit chat. So they kind of recreated that atmosphere virtually. Now I think the other point is how can you onboard new people that maybe are not familiar with your like say professional culture or your brand culture. So how can you pass on that information while you did not know that person before the confinement and you never met them physically? So I don't know if any of you have any like stories to share about onboarding new people during the past few weeks or months.
I can share a little bit. I recently had an intern join who, because of COVID, is only going to be working for 3 weeks, which is like a challenge in itself. Like, how do you figure out a project and, something valuable for someone for that short amount of time? And how do you build that connection, right? Like, there's just not enough time, and there's Corona on top of everything. But I think like one strategy that you can really use, it's, everyone is going through this together. So I think really asking, how the person is doing, how that has impacted their lives, and sharing your own struggles, not necessarily just, saying, oh, everything is fine. Like really be open, say about the things that are hard for you. Like this has impacted everyone in a different way. I think that's a valuable way to really bond with someone, like relate to their problems too.
Yes, definitely. And that Greg said something. I think that it's very. I think it's worth remembering because we are working with people that we haven't met, and we still have to do a great job. We still have to get the job done, and even though everybody is facing this problem, okay, but we still need to go on with our lives, and all the projects they still need to be done. And what Bruna said about someone who's been 3 weeks and he just landed and he has to do the job. He needs to do the consulting, and I want to follow up on that. And now all these changes were made. Everybody kind of adapted to this new situation, or I wouldn't say adapt, but it's kind of more familiar with it. It's been a few months. And on that, how has it affected the quality of your deliverables? And I mean, everyone can answer that. Is each area has its own perspective, but especially for the junior enterprises that we still need to, and we do a lot of projects on different areas. Has it for you the quality of your deliverables or the quantitative measures? How is the productivity going with all of that?
Yeah, I can start with this one. So for us, since it's a business in which we deal with the final customer, so actually advising on their portfolios, considering how we adapted, it has not impacted negatively. Actually, it has boosted our results. So I kind of attribute this to the fact that we have more time to dedicate to things that are most valuable to us. Not only professionally, but also personally, since we have more time with our families and the people we care about. We don't have to commute as much. We don't have to spend time on things that would not actually add value to our job. So since we can spend more quality time with our families and such, I think we become more prepared and more happy about going on our deliverables at work. And in general, all the deliverables were actually better than before. And customers, based on NPS results and such, they are even more satisfied with the work.
I want to jump into this one just because I think I've seen both sides. Like, I think this has impacted people in different ways. Like, I agree with Renan. Like, I've seen some people on my team that are delivering better. There's definitely people who have been impacted completely negatively. I mean, I think, depending where you are in the world and where you're living because of your job, you could be totally alone. You could be quarantined in a small apartment in New York City for months, and that's not good. That's like you're not spending time with anyone, you know so I think it's a challenge. That's why, again, I think it brings up the point of having to understand and looking to understand what people are going through is super important, because that's the only way you can relate to them. If they need more time, if they need to take some vacation, if you need to like give them more support or tell them to be like, hey, it's 5 p.m., like log out, like that should be done for people that need the support.
Yeah, I can jump on that one. I completely agree with the last point, because I think there are kind of, again, two distinct points in like what happened for the past few weeks. The fact that COVID has had such a big impact on all industries and on business as a whole, meaning that every company and in every industry had to adapt their activities, right? Meaning that even the processes, like the activities and the tasks that I used to do a few months ago, now I do the same thing, but not exactly in the same way. So that's the first difference, right? It's not exactly the same work. And again, now I work from home. So there is kind of a double-edged sword, right? So on one side, the tasks you do are a bit different. So this could impact your productivity. The time to learn how to use new softwares, how to actually do your task during the day. And on the other hand, the impact it can have on yourself, on your mental health, the fact that you work from home, there is less, like the border between your professional life and your personal life is way thinner. For example, right now, I'm just in my bedroom, right? And for the past few weeks, it's been my office as well. So I completely agree with Bruna said. If you have really to pay attention and listen to what people are saying, just to make sure that they feel good, and that you have to pay attention to the little things to make sure that people stay healthy and they can continue to deliver and be productive in their day-to-day job.
Okay, I also agree a lot with Bruna and Greg, but I think we have two scenarios here with the junior enterprise. We have some that, as I said before, was having difficulties with like labs and using some spaces in the university. So some engineering, junior enterprise, or health that must use the labs on the university, and they were closed. So we have some problems delivering some products and projects because they will have to have more time to do this because there's no lab to execute. So some junior enterprise could like use some private labs, and others didn't have the money or the possibility to do that. So some projects were affected by that. On the other hand, we have some junior enterprise that get their product better because they start to look more for the journey of the client, the experience, like, and what and how to move that physical relation to a digital one. They increase the attention to the consumer. So I think some projects and some junior enterprise uh, increase a lot the level of the performance and the results of the projects. So I think we have these two scenarios here, and some junior enterprise that were struggling with the labs problem, they start to not do that kind of project now. They stop it and start to do some other projects to continue working with the clients. But some of them are still struggling with the performance. So I think it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once again I'll bring to my work at Hexa. I know sometimes since you're at work, it's easy to, okay, since I'm here, I'm gonna do my work. But at the same time, you feel that there are a lot of distractions sometimes because when you're in your work environment, the mentality is okay. I'm here. I'm gonna do my work. Whenever you're at your bedroom, okay, I may do my work now, but I can watch a series on Netflix and or do whatever and or hang out with some friends. So I think and that's something I struggled in the beginning, especially when the classes were going and we know we all go at the same time in junior enterprise. We're still college going and now summer. Uh, I don't know, and I would love to hear how you guys are managing this because sometimes you just feel the I have to do this, but it's so comfortable for me here since I'm in my own bed. I'm with my friends here. It's hard to sometimes distinguish uh, what's what place is for what, and I think that's something that all the junior entrepreneurs are facing because we still have to deal with college. Some of them are taking summer classes. Uh, Everyone has a social life, I believe, and so everyone has their friends, and so I think it's kind of hard for you to take your time whenever you're in your comfort zone to say, okay, I'm gonna work on a project now. I'm gonna dedicate some time to do something that it's with the client. So I want to know, and I want Victor to answer that because when I was presenting, I saw that he's a self-proclaimed artist, and I enjoy playing guitar. I love music. So sometimes I may be working on a project and I just stop it and I want to play some guitar. So sometimes it's just that conflict of interest. And I want to know, and from all of you, how you guys are, what some strategies that we can implement to keep that, from happening.
Sure. Great to hear you're a musician. I also play the piano. Should start a band. By the way, I heard we went to the same high school. That's kind of crazy.
That's one of the things that I was kind of in doubt about that. But now, since we went to the same high school and we all play some instrument, and feel free, anyone who want to join a virtual band. So if Renan, if you play something, Bruna, Yuri, Greg, let's do a virtual band.
Yeah, I can play guitar as well. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. See, that's how you do the intimacy connection remotely, you know. So how do I try to stay more productive? You know, that's a challenge, and I'm not gonna be here saying that I'm 100% focused on my work the entire day, because that's not true. But one practice that has helped me keep track of my focus, and I think could be implemented very easily, is like at the start of the day, I set the things I want to finish for that day. And I just feel very uneasy if I don't finish them, you know? Like even when I'm procrastinating, let's say I go lay down for a bit, even though I'm laying down, I'm just thinking, damn, I gotta finish that thing, you know? And that just kind of puts me on that mindset to work and get things done. So this is one thing that has really helped me. And honestly, I think it's kind of healthy too to take a quick break sometimes. You don't need to be like 8 hours straight just sitting on the computer. Just try not to also be 8 hours straight not doing anything, you know.
I'm curious to know how Renan takes care, because we all know the financial sector is that crazy thing, and and I wonder, do you spend the entire day, and do you wake up in the middle of the night to see how the China markets are going, or you're able to take the things a little bit easier now?
I try to go easy on myself. So for my team, we try to separate with what is noise and what actually matters to the portfolio. So we try to look into more of the macro changes in the economic markets, whether the tick by tick movement. So for me personally, how I try to be more productive is by being very loyal to my schedule. So if I put something up on my schedule, that has to happen at that point in time. So at the point I put them there, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So by putting that on the schedule and leaving some time for having fun and such, I think that's the way I go about it. And while I'm doing work, I try to do techniques such as the Pomodoro timer and things like that, in order to have that time in which you try to be focused, and then there's a little break and such. You go take some break. That's how I go about it.
I have some thoughts too. Two ideas come to mind. One is more of like self-care, like make sure you're not commuting anymore. Like you don't have those routines that you maybe once might have had, And so make sure you're doing the things that are important to you, even though, work and life have blended. And if you're working, like people are gonna be slacking you constantly and, trying to get help, like take time. If you're gonna schedule, like for me, I'm a runner, so sometimes I'll schedule runs on my calendar in the middle of the day, and I'm just like, I'm unavailable now, I'm going for a run, like it's totally fine. It helps with my productivity, helps with my just energy level, and I think that's super helpful. And something else that comes to mind is, we talked a lot about communications and how, a lot of ceremonies have been put in place so you're more in touch with people. That is great, but sometimes too it can get a little bit too much, and if you have meetings overload, you're also not going to be able to do anything that you're supposed to be doing. Like some days, I'll have so many meetings at 5 p.m. I'm like, well, I haven't done anything, I still have to work. So I think a good practice is, block off your calendar. If you need longer chunks of time, if you're working on things that are more complex, and just set yourself to do that when you put that on your calendar. Like Renan was saying, that he also does, by this time I'm going to finish something. I think those are really good, kind of personal ways to get things done.
I think I have something to add. I think I'm like Bruna. I'm the crazy guy of the calendar and the planning, the day planning. So I do all my stuff in Google Calendar and checklist, and I use Pomodoro also. But I think there are two things that I had to add on my planning that this new routine ask for is to moments that I have to ask respond to people that are texting me a lot on Slack, WhatsApp, and things like that, because increased a lot because everyone is using the internet the entire time. So it's very more easier to send a message or email or things like that. So I have to have more time to respond that things in my day. So I put this on the calendar also, and time to sleep and eat well, because in the beginning of the crisis, I didn't put that on my calendar. So several days I set myself jumping lunch, or do it very quickly, or working until like too late and not have enough sleep. So I put that now on my calendar too, because that I cannot do anything else. And the things are like running, and I'm a dancer, so I put some dance classes in the agenda also. So I think it's a good place to start until you get used to it.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because, like, kind of from a broad overview, it all comes down to adaptability, right? How can everyone adapt to the new situation and just take on a new routine to make sure that not only we have the same level of productivity at work, but you also keep physically and mentally healthy. I mean, I think what comes out from everyone's points and from mine as well is the fact, like, to adapt to the COVID crisis, everyone had to be more maybe disciplined and organized in their day-to-day lives. So that means, of course, so personally, I also use a task management software just to make sure that I know what I'm going to do on the exact day. But it does not mean just to work even harder than before. And you have to make sure discipline for me means that you have to be very aware of yourself and know when you have to take some breaks. For example, just do the guitar during the day, which if you take like a 15-30 minute break after is going to boost your productivity. So you have to take that break. And also the fact that we don't commute, as Bruna said. Commuting sometimes is very annoying because you have the feeling that you lose some time, right? But at the same time, it kind of gets you in the mindset. When you go to work, you know, like, okay, I'll be in 30 minutes, I'll be to work, but you have time to like mentally prepare for the day at the office, right? But now that we don't have that time, you don't get the fresh air from going outside. You have to make sure to maybe just take a walk in the morning just to prepare for the day. So I'd say, yeah, in that sense, the adaptation to the COVID crisis pushed everyone to be more disciplined in their day-to-day lives.
Well, so for all the junior entrepreneurs who are out there, a common thing that all said is to have an agenda, keep a schedule, and follow. I think I'll try to implement that myself. So, but I think to all the junior entrepreneurs who are struggling right now, I think, as you guys mentioned, all of you, an agenda and to try to separate things. To okay, I have my chunk of stuff that I'm gonna do now, and then later I'm gonna go for a run or whatever. Do you guys have any more tips that you guys think are essential for a junior entrepreneur right now who are dealing with a lot of things to put a lot, how we can benefit from something? Do you guys have any else or any more things to say?
I think I have a tip for people like that are struggling like you, Bernardo, with the agenda. Is like we are doing it now in the Brasil Junior. We're making some groups of people like who wants to start to have something in the routine. So we have the book group, we have the 6 a.m. So who wants to wake up early here, and we have the group who wants to watch movies together and things like that. So like I'm in the group of 6 a.m. So I want to start to wake up early. So we all call to get each other at 6 a.m. until everyone is wake up, and after that we like go back breakfast, take a shower, have some time, and then we start to work at 8. So I think it's a good tip for start to doing some things like that and incorporate the planning in the routine.
I just wanted to mention, it's also connected to Gagua and Yuri, is how helpful it is for you to have a morning routine, so that you list all the habits you want to maintain, and as soon as you wake up in the morning, you do all that list, and it becomes a habit, an every single day habit. And as soon as you're finished with it and you're ready to go to work, make sure you do the hardest thing you have at your job the first thing you start at work, when your energy levels are high and you're ready to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also maybe like from my personal experience, as right now I spend even more time behind my laptop than before. Sometimes at the end of the day, I have the feeling that like my eyes are tired, but I'm not physically tired. So what I changed in my morning routine is I try not to use my smartphone or use my laptop at least like 30 minutes to an hour before I wake up, just to have that time to like start the day, and then after I get to work. And I feel that personally, this had an impact on my morning productivity.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things you said was about mental health. I think that's a topic that we all need, and that's something that Bruna said about trying to stay. Sometimes you have to do something, but other you need to focus on yourself and your mental health first. And I know Bruna has a lot of experience with consulting, and she's been in our shoes, all the junior entrepreneurs, and I wonder because though we are like a lot of students, we feel that we need to we have this professional experience that we need to do, and we try to treat this as professional as we can, and sometimes we can just forget uh, that we're still young and students. And I want to know, especially for you, Bruno, that works with consulting, how do you keep this, try to separate things, and how you within consulting you dealing with clients and all of that, how do you balance everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's hard, Like I think especially as a consultant, or if I think about, my junior enterprise days too, where I was juggling so many things at school and the junior enterprise and trying to get everything stand up. I think it's a question of priorities too, of like, okay, like if there's a list of 20 things that I want to do, okay, like that's probably not going to be doable. Like let me work with someone. I think it's always good to chat with someone to get that going. If you're in a junior enterprise, get your exec board together, or even, get a group like meeting and have like a priority type of meeting, prioritization list type of thing. And figure out, okay, we can't do all these 20 things because we're students, we're not full-time workers, and we can't just like dive into this. What is most important, and let's like, and what can we achieve while still feeling like we are healthy and we have a life, and we're not like killing ourselves and sleeping 5 hours a day, because that's not sustainable. At the end of the day, that you can do that for a month, but you can't do that for a year. So I think it's prioritization, comes down to that.
Kind of jumping from your answer, Bruna, and looking maybe more at a organization perspective rather than an individual perspective on this thing. Everyone is going through COVID right now, so maybe the opportunities that students had before to get some work experience and grow professionally, they're kind of more scarce. So even though in this moment it's harder to get in touch with people and recruit new members for your JE, if you can be the environment that has adapted to this new situation and can provide this type of experience, it's a really big opportunity. People will talk about it and things will flow really nicely. So I think the whole thing of like seeing challenges as opportunities is a super smart way of thinking, and maybe this could be one way of going about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still we all talk about groups, but I was thinking that still within the consulting field, we are junior enterprises. We always, I think, one of the biggest challenges we all face, and not just consulting, but all of them, especially consulting as students, is to deal with clients. And you all nod your heads. You all know what I'm talking about. What's the problem with, sometimes just dealing with someone who, is not used to your organization and all of that. So with all this going on, and we still have all of those things, though, the clients who are not satisfied with their business and all of that, how can we create, I think I would say, a better customer relationship management? How can we manage this better? How can we try to ease things, and at the same time be productive and not lose a client? Because I know it happens sometimes. It's just, you know not everyone is satisfied with that. So how do you this and I think Bruna and Hannah, I would love to hear from you about this client. You guys, I know you guys deal a lot of directly with clients, so please.
Yeah, so for me personally, I try to borrow concepts from Stoicism for my personal life and professional life as well. So one of the things I like the most is the dichotomy of control. So while separating the things you can control versus the things you can't control. And in terms of relating and dealing with clients, I see myself like trying to figure out until what point I can go, which things in the relationship I can control and which things I cannot. So for example, I cannot control the reaction the customer will have, but I can control the next steps after that in order to show the value or overcome some obstacle that's in the way of getting the business done. So that's what I try to do, but and try to also do everything you can, what's in your control, in your team's control, in order to actually go about and into fulfilling every need that the customer has. As long as you do that, and even though the client might not need your service or want your service, you can have the peace of mind that your team has done everything they could in order to get the job done.
Yeah, Hinan, I love that philosophy of life. It's I don't think I've ever put it that way, but I think I live similarly too. It just makes it easy. There's so much going on in the world. You just can't, you have to accept that you can't affect everything. But if I think about junior enterprises right now, I think like a big opportunity for the JEs that are doing consulting is realizing that the small businesses are struggling. So there's a huge opportunity there to tap into those customers that are they might go broke if they don't get any help. And so that's like a big market for junior enterprise to go in. You have like great services, and you can really help them recreate themselves, rebrand themselves using like smart students. So I think that's one. And from the perspective that I think Victor already touched on, which is like recruiting, well, professional opportunities, internships, all of that they're scarce. They're really hard. So if you're able to sell your junior enterprise as that opportunity, hey, you're not gonna be able to get an internship this year, but you can work for a junior enterprise and you're still gonna have that on your resume. Like, you shouldn't never do it for your resume, don't get me wrong, I totally hate that, but I think it's you have a value proposition to get people interested, and then they should stay because they like it, not for the resume. But big opportunities, recruiting and sales as well.
Oh,
And some
okay.
other thing that I'd like to add for you to actually reach out to the professional you want to be. So figure out someone who's in the position that you want to get, and just reach out to that person on LinkedIn or something. People are really open to that. They want to contribute to the community itself. They once were in your shoes. Try to talk to them. They will provide you insights, and actually maybe even establish a mentorship and a relationship with that person in order for you to, when it gets to the time in which you want to get into into the job market, you already have that connection, the person who helped you develop, and maybe that person might even get you an opportunity you haven't even realized existed.
I think a good way to think about how to go to offer your services is to understand the what your service will impact in the customer's life. So it's not only the function or what brings like the numbers, but also what it has behind it. So what's the social increase, the emotional increase for the customer. So I think we now have the opportunity to turn the junior enterprise into a more outcome driving approach, you know. And what the products try to achieve is the customer's life. So I think it's like Henan just said, it's it matches with the moment. So I think if you try to understand what it's the main pain, the pain points that by all the pain points, the things that it's not only functional but in economic, but always social and emotional involved with the owner of that small business. I think you could like understand what you have to offer, not just the results, but also the user experience and things like that. So I think it's not because we have a lot of things online now. So we have uh, a lot of other opportunities to for the small business too. So the junior enterprise have to offer something that is quite different, and to be able to do that, you have to think it more integrated and look for what you can achieve with the consulting and the service and the product. I think it's a great way to think about right now.
Yeah, I think you all said about how to turn this moment into an opportunity for the junior enterprises, and I think that's something that it's very valuable, and I think we must insist on that because as Bruna said about the small business, they've all taken a hit, and sometimes is they can, instead of paying for a service, they can reach out. And I think the junior enterprises must do this, must put their selves out there, available, and show, hey, we can help you. We may not be a firm that you pay us 100%, but we are junior enterprise. We are able to get the job done, and I think that's most of the one of the opportunity that this situation imposes. So with that, I think there's a quote from Rockefeller. You all know that. You know him, but there's a quote that I think it ties very well with this moment. I always try to turn a disaster into an opportunity. And with that, I would love to hear more from your experiences with junior enterprise. And I'm not gonna say in a moment similar to this because I don't think we've ever seen something like this. But I want in an opportunity that you guys saw when a moment of struggle like this in your times with junior enterprise. And if you didn't have one of those, if even your work environment, a place where you see there's a lot of struggle, and you are able to look at that and say, okay, we may have a good opportunity here.
I think I have a cool example to tell here. It's kind of related on how the whole idea of JUSA started. So I was in Brazil doing like a summer internship, and after that was done, I went back home. And since like the schedule of university in Brazil is different than US, the 1 month that I spent at home, people were having classes in their universities. So I was always hanging out at the university here just because I had nothing else to do. And during that time, I kind of got in touch with the whole junior enterprise movement and concept, and I really didn't know about it before. But my best friend back in the day, he was like a president of a junior enterprise here. So I thought it was super cool, how people were actually doing projects for real clients. I never saw that before in the university context. So I went back to the US for my last year of college, and I really wanted to do something like that. But I realized that there really wasn't any organization, and that's really where this mindset, which I think should be really something that guides the thought process of junior entrepreneurs and like junior enterprises came into play. Like, instead of giving up on this thing that I had, this urge to participate in something like this, because there was no opportunities to do that, I figured, wow, that's the biggest opportunity ever, like, let's start something, since there's nothing being done yet. And that really like changed my life, so I definitely recommend thinking this way. um yeah, I think I just wanted to share this example.
I think a nice way to look at it is to think about how how we are privileged in have the opportunity to do and learn during a big crisis like that. And I have some friends, some college friends, that they are struggle too with the situation, but they are at home doing nothing and struggling about doing nothing, and don't have the opportunity to make some things, and like, have something to schedule, and I think it's a great opportunity not only to learn about how to run a company in the digital world, and only have meetings like virtually, and but also how to understand what's the main necessities that small business, medium business have. And I think it's like it's a big privilege to have this opportunity like in younger age, and few, like a lot of people wouldn't be so young and have this to put not only in their resume, but to face all the crises that might come in the next year. So I think it's a great opportunity to experience that and have do some projects and understand what's what the things that might be the future of consulting and service and products and things like that. So I think it's a major opportunity.
Yeah, complementing Yuri, I think it's a time in which we have like a huge intellectual challenge in which we all build upon an opinion on what's going on. And aside from the health crisis, the economic crisis, we have a huge opportunity of listening from thought leaders through lives like these, and such discussions, online, live. Like we, as you said, Yuri, it's such a privilege to have access to these types of discussions. Well, decades ago, we would not be able to learn from these leaders. So I took the time, well, and when it all started in March, April, I actually took the time to study and try to understand how could I impact the business, how could I adapt to everything that was going on. And certainly this types of discussions helped a lot. And there's still going on. If you're from Brazil, there was expert just a few weeks ago. Was a huge opportunity for you to learn. And also he thought that based on what I see, even though it is a challenge what we're all facing right now, every crisis comes to an end. So it will all come to an end. So you must be prepared for what comes next.
Yeah, and Renan, you, since you're from the investment side, and I know you must have an eye for opportunities where you see everything is going down, and you might look at it in a different way with a different approach, say, okay, it might be down now, but that's a huge opportunity for the future. So with that, how do you have some tips for junior entrepreneurs who need something to develop a little bit more of this sense of opportunity, like taking a look at everything that's going on? Do you think there's some tips that we can benefit from this sense of opportunity?
Yeah, I like a quote from Warren Buffett a lot. He says that you must be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. So that's what I like to use at moments like this. So as you see people selling out on their stocks and everything in the markets, that was a time in which you had to be thinking on buying, not selling. So if you build upon on the junior enterprise environment, and now it's a time for you to build the foundation and try to do all this strategic planning, because it's gonna come to an end. So you should not wait until you have a clearer picture of what the world is gonna look like, and then start studying and planning. Do all this foundational work now.
All right. I could say, as we're into quotes, I think this one is from Michael Jordan, but it's like you miss every shot you don't take, right? So I'd say, as an advice for all the like junior entrepreneurs, is like you have to be bold right now, I think, at the moment, because maybe some of you had internship opportunities or job opportunities that were canceled because of the crisis, but it does not mean then you have to be disappointed and do nothing. You just have to create your own opportunities. And as we said a bit earlier in the discussion, for example, on LinkedIn, I know that many people, many experts from all kinds of industries are very open to discussing 15, 30 minutes to talk about the experiences, and maybe provide you with some contacts that will afterwards help you to create that opportunity. So take some risks and just continue to strive, to learn, to continue to learn, and to try new things, to meet new people. So life does not stop because of COVID, right? You still have to find new ways. So it's all about that adaptability and the ability to be bold and to just continue reaching out to people and trying to create those connections.
I have a thought too, because I remember during my days, at junior enterprise, like one thing that everyone struggled with was like, well, we're still students. We feel like we don't necessarily have the full amount of, well, obviously we have like no professional experience really, like working full time, and we haven't really finished school. Like, what skills do I really have? I always heard that, even though after the fact you realize, oh, we actually knew so much. Like, we have brains, we can figure out problems, we can break down things and really figure out like small steps how to get to the solution. But the thing is that I want to say more practical terms too. One opportunity through this period is that there's so much free learning online on like everything, and like it's been the best time for you to be able to take classes online, go on Udemy, go on Coursera, whatever it is, and learn what you think you're missing. Like, for example, if one thing that's super obvious to me is that small businesses are going to have some type of digital storefront, because people are not going to go there. They're worried about being close to each other. Why don't you junior enterprise service them in that way? Well, you don't have the skills. Well, you have time. You have some time, go learn, and then you can pick that up and go provide the service. Like, you'd be amazed about how fast people can learn and be able to apply that. That's one thing I would do if I had a junior enterprise right now. I'd be like, let's go digital. Everyone's going to learn Tableau and SQL, and we're going to like that's what I would do.
Well, that's a great point. And also kind of another practical advice. So still building on the fact that people on LinkedIn are maybe more open to discussing with you and taking some time off their schedule to provide you with advice. Something that really worked for me personally is reach out to people that went to the same university I went. So you kind of have that link, through the alumni community. And if you say, okay, we went to the same university, I'm very interested in your industry, could you take some time to discuss? Because I would be very interested in having a chat with you. You'll be surprised how often people will answer you, and very positively. People are actually eager to help young people to get into the job market and to provide advices. So that could be a practical way of reaching out to new people.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. I went to one of your, you did a webinar on that, and I think, and especially you guys can testify on that, that being in the junior enterprise already uh, puts you out there. It shows that you got some interest in like, I want to do more. I want to know excel on the things I'm doing, and I just want to be, I just want to keep learning a lot, and especially, you guys know, everyone who's watching knows what's like to be in the junior enterprise. Sometimes you're in a project where you don't know things, and you end up like doing what Bruno said, going and learning. Oh, okay, I gotta learn marketing right now, and I have no idea what to do. I'm gonna do an online course. I'm gonna read a book, a really cool book too. So usually a junior enterprise is a time where you learn a lot, and especially at a time like this where you got a lot of time. I think we just should keep developing ourselves, and as Renan said, prepare the foundations of the junior enterprise to come out of this way more prepared, way more ready, strong to face the new situation, the new clients, and all of that. So yes, I think Yudi is nodding his head. I think he's from Brazil Junior. I think he knows very well what we're talking about.
Yeah, totally. When you introduced me, you said I'm my area take care of digital products, but in the beginning of the year we didn't have the focus on digital products, so it all started now. So I'm a big example of that. But talking about junior enterprise structure and focus, and I think have a TED from Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle. I don't know if you have watched that, but it's a great one, and I use it a lot because he said that the purpose of the activity, the brand, the company, it's the main thing to not only communicate, but also I use this to design stuff. So know why you do that. It's the first step to make the else better and good. So I think as a junior entrepreneur, I think the first step is to know why I'm here, why I'm doing this, why I want this, not only for my resume, but also what I want to do with my junior enterprise. So I want to help people. I want to develop the newest technologies in the United States, in the world. I don't know. You have to know why you're here and why your junior enterprise exists. So then it's going to be easier to know what to do and how to plan that. So I think to start, you think you have to define that, and then here in Brazil we are doing small strategic planning. So we are using more like 2-3 months planning than biggest one that you used to do in the past, like a year planning and things like that. We are not doing so longer uh, with that activities, and I think it helped a lot. But we start now to plan the next year. So like Renan said, we need to start thinking about the future. What is going to be, not that it's going to go back to normal, what we know as normal, but we have to prepare to uh, increase and do more projects, have give the opportunity to more students to have a practical learning, that to have a relation with clients, with technologies, with digital products, like Bruno suggested too. So I think it's the main points for me. Know why you're here, and the how and the what will come next, and plan shortly for this year, but do not lose the focus on what you're going to do in the next few 2, 3, 4 years from now.
I think there is no better way to end these questions I had prepared and coming to the Q&A with this amazing sentence from Yuri. I think that sets a very good example and a tip to all the junior entrepreneurs who are out there and just watching this and expecting to get some at least some insight in how to be more prepared to the future. Before we start the Q&A, I want to thank you all for I want to thank you all again for being here. I appreciate that a lot. And I don't say just this on behalf of JUSA, but I think in the name of all the junior entrepreneurs who are out there looking at you and say, okay, they've been there, they know what they're talking about, and how can I implement all of those things, all these important things to my junior enterprise. So once again, thank you. I'll say thank you more at the end. Don't worry, but it's just before we go to the Q&A, and we've been receiving a lot of questions. So I want to start with I think everyone can talk on that because I think it's more than like a opinion, but I want to see your perspectives. So we got from Caroline Keller. Do you think the practice adopted during quarantine will be kept in place in the post-COVID-19 world? And I would like to start with Hannah, who is out there with the investments things, and I'm pretty sure he must have a good answer for that.
I think we hear a lot about how we're going to have a new normal, and we don't already know what the new normal is going to be. There are many things that came with the quarantine. I believe they're here to stay, such as remote work. Not to the extent we are living today, but remote work is here to stay. We see how big companies such as Facebook are taking action on that and allowing professionals to stay at home. So how could we explore on that, on the things that are here to stay? I believe companies, not only junior enterprises, should be able to explore other geographies. So not only staying on the local market or the market you used to deal with, but as you're working remotely and the teams are working from other regions and your clients are in other regions, your service might serve a need from a region that you weren't expecting before. That's what we're doing here at Monte Bravo in São Paulo. My clients were all, well, mostly based in São Paulo, but now I realize that I can provide my service to people that are in, well, actually very far from here, such as Manaus, Fortaleza, other cities that are actually very distant. Because in the past, such clients might think you were not valuing them as you did not take a plane and go see them in person. But now they believe it's normal for us to chat like this and provide a service that can be provided digitally.
Anyone else would like to answer this one? How do you and express your perspective? And I think all of you want to talk. And Victor, you went first. How and you're a product manager, right? So you must be dealing with this and this wide perspective that we got for the future. So what do you think is going to happen? What's going to be the post-crisis environment?
Okay. So let me try to draw a picture here to organize my thoughts. I think first situation we were in was like before the pandemic, we had a set of practices, daily routines. That's situation A. We're now in situation B where like everyone is at home and we had to adapt to a lot of things. And I think there will be a situation C when maybe the vaccine comes out and things, just like when we move from A to B, things changed a lot. I think when we move from B to C, things will change a lot again. But I also don't think they will go back to how it was on situation A, you know? One of the big things, and I think it goes beyond the remote thing, but more in like a digital transformation kind of effect. I think the pandemic was really good at accelerating that. It's kind of crazy, you know, Brazil, evolved digitally because of the disease, and that's super interesting. You know, like things like iFood and like food delivery services and remote work were really not very well accepted, and now they're just like very common. So I think that's a very cool thing that happened, and that will probably persist after we end. But at the same time, I feel like people are really craving that person-to-person interaction. So I'm not sure if that's really going away. I think maybe when it comes to like those relationships, things will look a bit like they used to.
And I have some thoughts. Like I totally agree with Victor and Nam. I think some activities that was commonly physical in the last years, like having a meeting and like having a coffee and things like that, I think will change a bit because now we figure that it's easier to have a meeting online and you don't have to spend more hours going to the place than having the meeting itself. So I think some things in business work will change a lot, but totally the social contact will be needed again because we are missing it a lot. So like a conference events, parties and things like that that happens into the business world too will continue, and I think it will not change, but some things will be different and we have to uh, think what it's better now and what gives more time to understand that these things they should continue, and the things that we are missing a lot that's not great that make us feel bad about it, these things must go back to the way they were before. So I think it's a great thing to analyze and to understand what's going to continue and what's not.
Yeah, building about that, I think I have kind of the same points. Of course, like the remote working idea. Before the crisis, it was kind of a concept that was already known and used, but there were some questions around like the productivity people would have at home. So now we know, as we really dived into this concept, we know that now productivity is not necessarily affected by the fact that people work at home. So I think that would be one of the main changes. Now, something I've experienced at Agorize, so at my company, some processes. So the COVID pushed us and forced us to adapt, right, and to change some of our processes and to try new things. And actually, by trying those new things that we did not try before, we realized that they were really good alternatives to what we're doing. So really concretely, so we organize innovation competitions. So sometimes we have innovators from all around the world that submit their projects and work together. And before the COVID, we always tried to have final events like presentially. So everyone flied to like the same city. Everyone was just gathered. So we had journalists, everyone. Then the finalists could pitch their idea in front of a physical jury, and then the winners were announced. Of course, all of that had to move virtually, digitally. And actually, this transition was much smoother than what we expected. And now we realize that it also has a lot of advantages, because sometimes we want to fly someone, let's say from Australia, to come to Canada. It's first very expensive. It has an impact on the environment. So if you take a lot of these factors into account, this alternative that we tried thanks to the crisis is actually a really good alternative. And I think now from a more general point of view, a concept that there's been a lot of hype around right now, and that's going to stay, I think, after the crisis, is the idea around resiliency. So now how can you, because of course this crisis is huge and has an impact of all industries all around the world, but as a general like fact, our society is moving very, very quick. So we have to adapt, we have to be resilient and to be able to change and do the necessary changes when crashes happen, when downturns happen, where like breakthrough happens as well. So I think this idea of resiliency is going to be one of the most important concepts in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all junior entrepreneurs need to stay resilient. with all the situation to come. I gotta say, we got a lot of questions, so I'll try to get them as most as possible. You guys talk so greatly that everyone now has a question. The next one I would like to address first to Bruna, who was the founder of JUSA and her own junior enterprise, who's been a great leader, I'm pretty sure. So this one is from Isabella Marks. Have you seen the necessity to shift the leadership styles due to new dynamics in the COVID setting?
So change in leadership through COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think it touches on the point that I mentioned before, where I think people are a lot more open, and leaders should be. I've seen, like, for example, the kind of the my team leader who's managing everyone. I think he's done a really, really great job at, being open with people, sharing what are the struggles, and, asking, setting up one-on-ones. I think the leadership has to be a little bit more, more, even if that's not what's comfortable for the person, but it has to be, what's the word, they have to be more open to sharing failures and, hard times. That's what I've seen work a lot. We've also had, like, a lot of different meetings set up with different leaders within the company that are willing to, to just sit there and have, like, a coffee chat. You can just go and talk to and ask whatever question. I think that's, being open during these times has been the biggest change that I've seen. I really like it.
I don't know about yourselves, but I think I changed the way that I thought about trust. I used to trust people that I met, that I work with, and it used to be related to also know that person physically. So I think it's difficult now to think about that, and I started to know how to trust people without knowing them uh, physically. So I think it's a simple thing that changed for me, that changed a lot the way that I work with my team, with others. And I just realized that some weeks ago when we celebrate 3 months that of my new member, so that one that I told about, who we were recruiting in the beginning of the crisis. So I trust her a lot, and we are now close friends, and we never met. So I think it's really nice to think and to change the perspective of some stuff that we do more often physically.
I think in terms of how leaders interact with their co-workers, one thing that changed was remote work kind of prompts more autonomy. It's very hard to be a micromanager when you're not physically present. So I think that's kind of a leadership change that has happened. Give more autonomy, more space for people to be responsible and do their work.
And even developing trust, right?
Yeah, one of the values we had when we were at the board from the Junior Enterprise USA, it was to lead by example. So over time, I believe the examples are going to change, but leading by example is a style of leadership which is very effective and builds trust over time. So as we are going through the situation, so the examples themselves are changing, but leading by example, I believe is a very effective way. Let me give you an example of what I try to do as a leader. So of course, as Victor said, micromanaging does not work in the style and remote work as we have today. So I believe the role of a leader is ensuring all members have the tools they need to best perform at their jobs. So an example of leading by example would be, well, I really like a book which is called Essentialism, and I just bought a few copies and sent them over to the different addresses of the people in my team. And they were not expecting that, but based on the concept after they read, they know why me as a leader, why I value those concepts, and why it's important for them to incorporate these types of actions into the job.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and also with the idea that micromanaging teams is way, of course, very difficult now. So you have to have trust in your team. But I also think what's very important is that as a leader, you want your team to be as productive as possible, but you also want to have like people in your team to be like to feel well, right? So of course, you cannot micromanage them in terms of productivity of their tasks. But I think right now the role of the leader is just to make sure that people in their team are feeling well. So because when you see people at the office, there is the body language that speaks a lot as well. And even some people, they do not say when they're feeling bad, they have like a bad day or something's wrong. They do not say it, but the body speaks for itself, right? Now, as you do not have that interaction, I think as a leader, it's even more important to be there for the people in your team and to leave to create a safe space to share to share everything, basically. So you don't have to micromanage for the tasks, but you have to make sure that people in your team have feel safe and can share everything that happens in their day if they want to share it.
Yes, absolutely. We have more questions, of course. And this one, I was thinking about you, Yuri, from the Brasil Junior. I think it's a great fit, and I would love to listen from you, and then, of course, from Peter. This is from Fred Merida. What approaches have you seen that work in keeping partnerships and relationships with other organizations, individuals, engaging under the current situation? In essence, what shifts have you experienced in your external relations practice to keep drawing value from them for all the parties involved?
Okay, I think that changes a lot. Um, in the beginning of the crisis, we maintained mostly everything, but just changing that to digital format. So we have some um, events that we are started to do it online, but make some more webinars than present physical visitors and things like that. But then we realized that the engagement is completely different, the experience is completely different. So we started to understand, and like I said before, we started to understand what's the main cause, what's the purpose that we do some partnerships, and start to rebuild them. So now and then we changed it from only partnerships to partnerships and digital products, and we start to make some platforms and changes some platforms that we already had. And for that, we start to look to the whole business model in a different perspective, and change the value proposition, change the way we have our profit and how we maintain our operations, because some actions that we used to do uh, would would be better if if we maintain it digitally, because it gets better. But some of them we have to start doing presentially again. So I think, and then for make it short, we start to change the type of partnerships that we made, because most of them were in a format and in a way that didn't work well in scale and with more digital reference, and start to make some partnerships that would provide us to be more digital, to make us more efficient in this virtual model. So, for example, we have some partnerships with companies, big companies, to help them recruit some universities into some universities. And we used to do that by making some events in the universities. But now we trying to create a platform that was only for publishing some announcements by of the companies, and we're trying to make this into a one-to-one connection between the company and the student. So it's completely different than we used to do, that we gather a lot of students together and do some culture experiments of the company. And now we have personalized one-on-one experience. And it changes completely the way that we made the partnership and the way we have deliver our value. So I think it's an example for to say that partnerships will be used to will be needed if it have some gains to expand your value proposition, or to make it easier or faster or better. So you have to ask if the partnerships that you made or that you want to make, they will provide one of those two things. And for that, I think it's great to make some projects and to understand what will be like in 2-3 years from now, and what we dream about, and anything like I said before, and it may return to the purpose and what you want to do and why you want to do it.
I think the types of partnerships that I deal with in my job are very different in essence from maybe what a junior enterprise encounters. But I'm gonna try to bring this as close as I can to a tangible example that might help. For example, we're trying specifically what I do. I sell loans. Okay, so there's a loan product in my company, and then we're just running pilots and trying to like make people purchase these loans. And one of the biggest challenges that we encountered was that like when we use the sales force at the company where I work, they're really not engaged. It's like it's hard because they usually sell beer. Very difficult to tell them you go sell loans now. One thing that helped, and then going back to one of the first points we talked about in this discussion, was implementing communication strategies, let's call it that way. So every week we have a specific time, and in that time there's like this one picture that we look at, which is like this funnel of conversion, like how many clients on top, how many were contacted, like we have steps that they go through. And just really implementing this type of routine helped a lot with the engagement of the team. So I think this could be useful in your context, translating a little bit. Maybe when working on a project with a client, have a weekly touch point and have some tool during that touch point that you follow, and use that to make everyone well aligned with what's happening. Or maybe it could also be useful for running the internal processes in the junior enterprise. I definitely understand that it's a challenge to keep all the students engaged in the organization. So having this type of strategy helps with engagement, because people will feel more responsible, they will have visibility of what's happening, and they will be held more accountable for it. So I think this communication thing really is more than just a buzzword.
Yeah, Bruno, I'd love to hear from you since you work with consulting. How, because sometimes we might get lost and might not know. Okay, so how do I maintain a good partnership, especially when something like this happens, and that's something I don't see that just my enterprise is struggling, but all of them. How do we keep this good relationship with the partners?
Um, I'm gonna bring this. I don't think like my job necessarily super related to that. I don't really touch any types of partnerships. But during junior enterprise, especially during my first year with JUSA, I was the person that went around to get partners for the newly established confederation, and I think if that I think Yuri touched upon that too. Like one of the biggest things that we sold was access to our students and access to that talent base. I think the challenge now is figuring out ways that this can be efficient even though you can do it in face to face. And it's having that open conversation with your partner, trying to figure out, okay, like this is a problem for both of us, so how can we make this work? Like, and like Yuri said, they went for like those types of one-to-one type of a connection with the students. I'm sure there are different ways that you can do that. And if you think from like a smaller scale in a junior enterprise, like at Prime, we also had multiple partners like consulting firms throughout Atlanta, and just some specific consultants that helped us out. I think from that perspective, where people who are just helping out, like you can get help too, from people who are more experienced, have been in, working for many more years. So make sure to tap into those knowledge bases too, because they will be able to give you some advice on how to move forward and continue to have valuable partnerships.
I think Greg would be a really good person to answer this question since he's a JUSA partner.
Thank you for that, Vitor. So actually, yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm just trying to figure out. So yeah, because one of the partnerships I am in charge of is called the Ambassador Network. So basically, we have relationship with student groups around the world that participate in our challenges, the online competitions, but also spread the word. So actually, yeah, right now, many student groups were actually very interested in this kind of partnership, just for the reason I mentioned previously in the discussion as well. Like many students had internships and had jobs for this summer, but they were canceled or they were just modified. So, and they still want to have that professional experience. And actually, that's one of the things you can get by participating in an innovation competition or a case study, because you work collaboratively with other people. So not only can you like gain prizes and gain experience, but you also meet other people. So in that aspect, I think this partnership has been evaluating very well for the past few weeks and few months. And for the other types of partnerships, so right now it's more about pursuing the discussion we previously had, but then you have to change the word like presentially to online. So all the events you wanted to organize, should they be like workshops, conferences, all of that. So you still have the discussion, but then you have to see how to best adapt to co-organize these events virtually. So I mean, the partnerships were not too much impacted on my professional, like at Agorize, I have to say, but again, it was all a question of adaptability.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true, Vito. I completely I missed that one of Greg. I'm sorry, Greg. I know, and I say this because Hexa, we have a partnership with Agorize, and now
No need to
we
apologize.
yeah, we got a very great question from Julia, and this one I would like for you guys can take a little time to think, but I would like to listen to hear from all of you. It's a more philosophical question, so feel free to just do your best. What is one thing you learned while being a junior entrepreneur that helped you in the job market and your current job? And this may be hard, so don't worry, take your time. Whoever wants to start, who has a good.
I'll do it. I like philosophical questions. So yeah, one of the things I realize is that as you go through your life and participate in different projects, you don't necessarily know why you're doing what you're doing. It's only when you look back, you realize how things are connected to one another. And one thing I realized participating in projects such as the Junior Enterprise USA is the value of network, of human connection. So people just like Bruna, Vitor, we've been together as a team, and now I hope to keep this friendship for life. So the people you meet in a way, you might not even know why you're meeting that person, why you're having that conversation, but somehow it's all connected, and it's gonna drive you to where you want. And when you in such a completely different scenario, you realize, oh, that person might have an insight. Let me go talk to them, reconnect and such.
Well, let me try to take a shot at. I think pinpointing at the one thing is tough, and I might change my mind later since I had such little time to think about it. But I think one big thing for me was like you get what you put into it, and that applies in junior enterprise. That applies in your professional life. Like you really need to be a protagonist of what you're doing and like be responsible, even if things are like even if you can find an excuse to why that wasn't your fault, you should still be like, damn, but what could I have done differently to change the outcome? I think this mindset of like being the owner of things was really transformational for my life, and a lot of that came with being a part of the JE movement.
What I was going to say definitely echoes what you just said, Victor. So I was not really part of a proper junior enterprise when I was at university, but I was part of a student group, and we co-organized events. So we had partners, and exactly the same thing is if you want events and activities or like just things to happen in general, just make them happen. You have to be the one that's going to be active, that's going to call people, that's going to plan ahead as well. I think, yeah, maybe that's one of the main lessons I had after my experience in that student group, is the fact that if you want an event to go well, then you have to plan it in advance, just to think about the different things that could happen. You have to think about the different scenarios, and then just be prepared for every kind of scenario. So just organization, I would say, and planification could be the two main things I took out of my experience, and that are actually very useful right now when I'm trying to organize events or I just try to create new partnerships.
I definitely have learned what Henan said. I think it's like the best answer about, the human connection and the network that you build. Vitor and Greg also, about, putting your work into it. But also, if I think outside of that, it really taught me to ask for help. Like when I was, we were struggling in the beginning, and we had to figure out how to get partners, and so it was such a thing from scratch, and I had never been a part of anything like that. I realized I couldn't do it by myself, so I reached out to people, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to build this really cool thing, but I have no idea how to do it. Can you help me? And that was really humbling and hard to do at first, but it gave me like the most out of it, because then I created like so many great connections back to that point, that people for life, I consider them to be my mentors. And that's really important. I think once you get out of junior enterprise and you're working, you're going to have those moments too. You're never going to know everything, and you have to be okay asking for help, either if it's it's a peer or whoever, like you need to be comfortable with that. And I think that's a really great thing I learned.
I think I'm in trouble because everything that I thought about was already said. Just kidding. But I'm still on the junior enterprise movement, so I'm not on the junior enterprise anymore. Like for 3 years now, I think. Yes, I spent a lot of time here, but now I'm at Brasil Junior. The here in the Brazilian Confederation, I live and work in the place in the where Brasil Junior is. So, and I do not do college anymore. So I'm just doing my work here at the Confederation. I think it's a fun fact, and different than other junior entrepreneurs experience, and it's very nice, and and crazy to think about it. But I think it mainly different than everyone said. I think to have that mindset of the purpose first, for me, changes the way that I work, the way that I do and plan stuff. So in either work and like personal life. So I think it's one of the things that I learned from from my experience as a junior entrepreneur. And I think also my practical practical learning ability, I think it get increased too, because I don't feel anxious about not knowing something or not having all the tools in my hand to be able to perform something. So if I, like right now, I'm trying to make some platforms, so I don't have any programming skills. I didn't work with these in any other time of my life, and I'm the head of it now. So, and I'm not anxious about it, because like Bruna said, we have a lot of courses and friends that could help. So I have asked a lot for help, but also I know that this is part of the experience. So if we did not have the challenge, we will not grow. So I think it's something that this experience learned to me.
Yeah, I think if we gather all these answers, and especially what Bruna and Hannah said, for all of those who are watching and are not yet a part of a junior enterprise, you should do it. Basically, I think that's the bottom. And so we got a last question, and I think it's especially because Hannah said he likes philosophical questions and he likes to talk about that. The last question is, of course, from the president of Hexa, my junior enterprise, so Isabella Mark. So thanks, Isa. The last one, just to wrap this up, what does the junior enterprise movement mean to you? How do you describe the feeling of being a junior entrepreneur? And please, it's your time to shine.
I can go first, I think. Um, for me, junior enterprise movement and being a junior entrepreneur means to know more about myself. So I think it's all about self knowledge, and also means to connect with a bigger purpose. And here in Brazil, it's so strong, and I think for everyone that participate in a junior enterprise, that we can make so much difference by delivering projects and service uh, non-profitly for small organizations, and developing new technologies, and have make the connection between the society and the university. And I think it's a role so important, and for me it means a lot of responsibility, to have the opportunity to connect these two worlds that in some countries are very apart, in others less apart. But here in Brazil, we have so much difficulty to connect the university to the ecosystem. So junior enterprise here are making a huge transformation in that thing. But I think this is common in all countries that has a junior enterprise. So I think it's a major responsibility to be part of it.
I have an answer. Can I go next? All right.
Please,
So
please.
since we're going to the philosophical side, let me give a shot at it. Okay, so if you look at human history, societies have developed, and never before we have had such a large network of students, like in human history, really. Like what junior enterprise is doing, what this movement represents, is a complete transformation in how young professionals interact with their university experiences, with how they interact with each other, how they interact with the job market. And I think it's just really beautiful to be a part of that, and be able to impact this ecosystem, be able to meet people with a similar mindset that want to do things and change the next generation of the world. So I think it's really, I don't know, it's awesome. What we're doing, if you think about it, really, it has never been done before, and we are it. Like the movement is us. You know what I mean? And that's awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I'm grateful for having been part of the movement itself. Well, just meeting the people that I met, with we were all like-minded, just attempting to do extraordinary things in our lives, even after the movement. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity of making a part and participating in such a connection of people, this group, which is have all this common goal of achieving great things, and for you if you're listening to me and you're still a part of the movement, well, cherish these relationships. You're going to take them and through your life, and it's this types of relationships that we need to value the most, and actually spending our time with people who really value uh, the same types of things that you want to achieve. Because if you start to think about it, everything you do, try to make good use of your time, because that's the only one asset that you can recover. If you lose money, you're gonna find ways of making more money, but spend your time during college as you enter the job market with people that really value you as a person, with a team that's willing to achieve great things and get to great lengths. That's my 2 cents that I wanted to add.
Maybe I can say something. I'm not part of junior enterprise, so you may be like the testimony of an outsider. But I can see, honestly, like the junior enterprise network and like around the world is pretty impressive. And as you said, Victoria, I think it's kind of unprecedented to have such a huge number of students across the world working together under the same banner, like to achieve projects together and to achieve great things. So I think if you're part of that network, it's an amazing opportunity. Of course, you should be, of course, proud. And then as it still has the potential to be developed in some countries, so I know in the US, in Canada, and many countries around the world, then just be bold and try to push the limits even further.
So I'm a little bit embarrassed because I missed the question. But something on message to junior entrepreneurs.
It's okay, Bruno. We'll do it again. And especially for you, who was a founder of, you participated in like the JEUSA and your junior enterprise. What does the junior enterprise movement mean to you, and how do you describe the feeling of being a junior entrepreneur?
Okay, that makes sense with the answers. JUSA to me is like personal growth, not JUSA. I mean, I guess that was my experience, but the junior enterprise movement, it's all about, trying to go in to get out a better person, either, a better leader or just professionally better, or, that's what it is to me. It's what it represents. It's just growth and being able to accept that you don't know everything and that there are other people in the same boat and you're just gonna figure it out together.
Oh, that's right in time. That's all we had for today. Exactly, almost 2 hours. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all taking your time. I think that was a lot of a very good information, very useful for all of the junior entrepreneurs. And even if you're not a part of the junior enterprise, I think we all learned a lot from you, people who have had experience with junior enterprise, and even Greg who haven't, but it's in partnership all the time. And I mean, thank you so much. And I appreciate the junior JUSA for doing this and promoting this type of panels that bring a lot of information to all of us. I just would like to emphasize that the whole thing will be available on YouTube, so you guys can share to all of your friends. If your friend wasn't able to make it today, you can send the link. You can be that guy, send the link, help him out. All the panelists you all can share with your friends and all of that. So thank you so much. That was, I think, was great for me. The time went passed by very quickly, and thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Bernardo, for moderating the panel as well. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you, thank you. I learned a lot from you guys today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. This was great. Good initiative, good moderating. I had fun.
Yeah. it was
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very fun. Thank you for the opportunity and for the invitation.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, and let's, hopefully we're gonna do more of this in the future. Thank you.